What if I told you that you're living through the final chapter of human intelligence? That right now, while you're watching this video, your ability to think is being silently destroyed. Nietzsche predicted over 100 years ago something that today materializes before our eyes in a terrifying way. The philosopher who declared the death of God now warns us about something even more disturbing. We are witnessing the death of our own intelligence. But here's the shocking part. It's not machines that are making us dumb. It's something much more subtle and dangerous. It's a poison we voluntarily consume every day, which destroys our capacity to question, to create, to think. You'll discover in this video what Nietzsche would call the modern herd, and why you're probably already part of it without even realizing it. Prepare yourself for a revelation that could completely change how you see the world around you. 1. The digital herd, how we became online sheep. Nietzsche spoke of the herd mentality over a century ago, describing how humans naturally gravitate toward conformity and safety in numbers. But even his brilliant mind couldn't have imagined how technology would amplify this tendency into something truly monstrous. Today, we don't just follow the herd, we are the herd. Millions of digital sheep bleating the same opinions, sharing the same content, thinking the same thoughts. The transformation is subtle, yet devastating. Every morning, millions of people wake up and immediately reach for their phones, not to think their own thoughts, but to download the thoughts of others. Social media feeds become our mental breakfast. Algorithms decide what we should care about today, and trending topics replace genuine curiosity. We've outsourced our intellectual autonomy to machines designed to keep us scrolling, clicking, consuming. Nietzsche warned that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. But what happens when the tribe becomes global, instant, and inescapable? When every moment of potential solitude is filled with notifications, likes, and the constant hum of other people's consciousness invading our own, we lose something fundamental: the ability to think independently. The digital herd operates on a principle that would horrify Nietzsche: the reduction of all human complexity to binary reactions: like, dislike, share, ignore, agree, disagree. There's no room for nuance, for the slow development of personal philosophy, for the uncomfortable wrestling with difficult ideas that leads to genuine wisdom. Everything must be digestible, shareable, instantly comprehensible to the masses. Consider how we consume information now. We don't read books, we scan headlines. We don't engage with challenging ideas. We seek confirmation of what we already believe. The algorithm learns our preferences and feeds us more of the same, creating echo chambers that would make Plato's cave look like an open field. We mistake the constant flow of information for knowledge, the rapid-fire exchange of opinions for genuine dialogue. The most insidious aspect of the digital herd is how it disguises conformity as choice. We believe we're making individual decisions when we're actually following predetermined paths. The apps we use, the content we see, even the thoughts we think have been shaped by systems designed to produce predictable behaviors. We've become what Nietzsche called last men, creatures who seek only comfort, entertainment, and the approval of others. This isn't just about social media addiction or screen time. It's about the fundamental rewiring of human consciousness. When we constantly expose ourselves to the immediate reactions and opinions of others, we lose the capacity for deep, independent thought. Our minds become reactive rather than creative, responsive rather than generative. We start to see ourselves through the eyes of the digital crowd, measuring our worth in metrics that mean nothing to our actual human development. The tragedy is that we've voluntarily entered this prison. No government forced us to carry tracking devices in our pockets or to surrender our attention to profit-driven algorithms. We did it ourselves, seduced by convenience and connection, not realizing we were trading our intellectual freedom for digital slavery. We've become what Nietzsche feared most, a species that values safety and comfort over growth and self-actualization. 2. The laziness of thought. Why we stopped questioning. Nietzsche believed that questioning everything, especially our most cherished beliefs, was the highest form of human activity. "What does not kill me makes me stronger," he wrote, referring not just to physical challenges, but to the intellectual courage required to examine our own assumptions. Today, however, we live in an age where questioning has become not just rare, but actively discouraged. The modern world offers us something Nietzsche could never have imagined: instant answers to every question. But here's the paradox. Having access to all information has made us less curious, not more. Why struggle with difficult questions when Wikipedia, YouTube tutorials, and AI chatbots can provide immediate explanations? Why develop our own understanding when experts, influencers, and algorithms can think for us? This intellectual laziness manifests in countless ways. We've developed what we might call Google brain, the assumption that any information we need is just a search away, so there's no need to actually retain or deeply understand anything. Students today often know how to find information, but not how to evaluate it, process it, or integrate it into a coherent worldview. They can access 1,000,000 facts, but struggle to form a single original thought. The phenomenon extends beyond formal education into every aspect of life. We rely on GPS systems to navigate, never developing our own sense of direction. We use calculators for basic math, allowing our numerical intuition to atrophy. We let recommendation algorithms choose our entertainment, our shopping, even our romantic partners. Each convenience comes at the cost of a cognitive skill, a piece of our intellectual independence. Nietzsche understood that true knowledge comes not from accumulating facts, but from the struggle to understand them. The effort itself, the wrestling with complex ideas, the tolerance for uncertainty, the willingness to be wrong, these are what develop our mental muscles. When we eliminate this struggle, we eliminate the very process that makes us human. Consider how we approach controversial topics today. Instead of engaging with difficult questions, we retreat to our ideological corners and consume only information that confirms what we already believe. We've replaced the hard work of thinking with the easy comfort of being right. But Nietzsche knew that being comfortable with our beliefs was a sign of intellectual death, not wisdom. The consequences are profound. When we stop questioning, we stop growing. When we stop growing, we become what Nietzsche called the last man, a creature satisfied with mediocrity, seeking only pleasure and avoiding all difficulty. We lose the capacity for what he termed amor fati, the love of fate that comes from fully engaging with life's challenges, including intellectual ones. Modern education systems contribute to this problem by emphasizing standardized testing over critical thinking, correct answers over good questions. Students learn to regurgitate information rather than to think creatively or challenge assumptions. They graduate knowing how to follow instructions, but not how to question them, how to consume knowledge, but not how to create it. The digital age has made this worse by rewarding quick responses over thoughtful ones. Social media favors snappy comebacks over nuanced analysis. News cycles demand instant reactions to complex events. The pressure to have an immediate opinion about everything leaves no time for the slow, careful thought that real understanding requires. We've created a culture where appearing smart matters more than actually being thoughtful. If this video resonated with you and you're ready to stop living other people's lives, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a step-by-step guide that can help you create your own values and think independently in just 5 minutes a day. Link in the first pinned comment. 3. The addiction to easy answers. When Google killed curiosity. There was a time when not knowing something was uncomfortable enough to drive genuine exploration. Nietzsche lived in such an era where questions could linger for days, months, or even years before finding resolution, if they ever did. This discomfort with not knowing was not a bug, but a feature of human consciousness. It drove us to explore, to experiment, to think deeply about problems that couldn't be solved with a simple search query. Today, Google and similar technologies have eliminated this productive discomfort. Any question that arises can be answered within seconds. Don't know the capital of Mongolia? Google it. Can't remember the plot of that movie? Wikipedia will tell you. Wondering about the meaning of life? There's a YouTube video for that. The immediate availability of answers has fundamentally changed our relationship with curiosity itself. Nietzsche would have recognized this as a form of spiritual poison. He understood that the value of a question often lies not in finding its answer, but in living with it, wrestling with it, allowing it to transform us. When we instantly resolve every moment of uncertainty, we rob ourselves of the opportunity for genuine intellectual growth. We become consumers of other people's thoughts rather than producers of our own. The addiction to easy answers creates a particular type of mental weakness. Our tolerance for ambiguity, what psychologists call ambiguity tolerance, has dramatically decreased. We become anxious when faced with complex problems that don't have straightforward solutions. Instead of seeing this discomfort as a sign that we're engaging with something important, we immediately seek to escape it through digital solutions. This phenomenon extends beyond factual questions into the realm of personal and philosophical inquiry. Feeling confused about your life direction? There's a self-help guru with a 5-step program. Struggling with relationship issues? Dating apps will solve that with an algorithm. Questioning your purpose? A life coach will give you a personalized plan. We've medicalized and systematized the very struggles that, according to Nietzsche, make us human. The most profound casualty of this addiction is our capacity for independent thought. When every question has a pre-existing answer available online, we stop developing the mental muscles required to think through problems ourselves. We become dependent on external authorities for understanding, losing what Nietzsche called intellectual probity, the honest struggle to understand the world through our own efforts. Consider how this affects creativity and innovation. Breakthrough ideas rarely come from combining existing knowledge in predictable ways. They emerge from the tension of not knowing, from sitting with problems long enough for genuinely novel solutions to emerge. When we immediately Google every obstacle, we eliminate the productive confusion that leads to creative insights. The addiction also creates an illusion of knowledge. Because we can quickly access information about any topic, we mistake familiarity with understanding. We confuse being able to repeat what we've read with actually comprehending complex ideas. This superficial knowledge makes us confident about subjects we barely understand, leading to the Dunning-Kruger effect on a massive scale. Professional experts aren't immune to this phenomenon. Even specialists in various fields increasingly rely on search engines rather than deep knowledge. Doctors use diagnostic apps, lawyers rely on legal databases, and engineers depend on online resources. While these tools can be valuable, they also create a dangerous dependency that weakens our fundamental cognitive abilities. The pace of modern life exacerbates this problem. We're expected to have opinions about everything, immediately. The 24-hour news cycle, social media discussions, and professional demands all pressure us to have instant answers. There's no social space for saying, "I don't know," or "I need to think about that." This pressure drives us deeper into the addiction to quick, easy answers. 4. Slaves to the algorithm, the new cave of Plato. Nietzsche was deeply influenced by Plato's cave allegory, but he would have found our modern situation far more disturbing than anything the ancient philosopher imagined. Plato's prisoners were chained and forced to watch shadows on a wall. We've chained ourselves and mistake the shadows for freedom. We've created our own cave, one made of algorithms, data points, and personalized content, and we call it choice. The algorithm is perhaps the most powerful force shaping human consciousness in the 21st century, yet most people don't even understand what it is, let alone how it controls them. Every platform you use, Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Netflix, employs sophisticated algorithms designed to capture and hold your attention. These systems learn your preferences, predict your behavior, and shape your future choices in ways that would make Orwell's Big Brother seem amateur. Unlike Plato's cave dwellers, we're not forced to look at the shadows. We choose to because the algorithms have made the shadows so appealing, so perfectly tailored to our desires, that we prefer them to reality. The algorithm knows what you want to see before you do. It presents you with content that confirms your biases, reinforces your existing beliefs, and keeps you scrolling for just one more video, one more post, one more hit of digital dopamine. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power as the fundamental driving force of human existence. But algorithms have hijacked this will, redirecting it toward their own commercial purposes. Your natural desire to grow, to overcome obstacles, to become more than you are, this gets channeled into endless consumption of content that makes you feel like you're learning or improving, while actually keeping you passive and dependent. The most insidious aspect of algorithmic control is how it shapes not just what you see, but how you think. When the algorithm learns that you respond to certain types of content, it shows you more of the same. This creates feedback loops that gradually narrow your worldview. You begin to see reality through the lens of what the algorithm thinks will keep you engaged. Your perception of what's important, what's true, what's worth caring about, becomes increasingly determined by systems designed to maximize profit, not human flourishing. Consider how this affects your daily experience. You wake up and check your phone. The algorithm immediately begins feeding you information designed to trigger emotional responses, outrage, fear, desire, envy. Your morning mood becomes shaped by content selected not for its truth or importance, but for its ability to generate engagement. Throughout the day, every moment of potential boredom or reflection gets filled with algorithmically selected stimulation. This creates what we might call algorithmic identity, a sense of self that's increasingly defined by what the algorithm reflects back to you. Your interests, your political views, your social connections, even your romantic relationships become influenced by systems that see you only as a collection of data points to be optimized for engagement and profit. You start to mistake the algorithm's version of you for your authentic self. The algorithm doesn't just show you content, it shapes your desires through careful manipulation of reward schedules, the same psychological techniques used in gambling. It makes you crave more of what it's selling. You develop what feels like personal preferences for certain types of videos, posts, or products, not realizing these preferences have been artificially cultivated to serve commercial interests. Nietzsche valued intellectual independence above all else. He insisted that becoming who you are requires breaking free from the influence of the herd, thinking your own thoughts, choosing your own values. But how can you do this when your thoughts are increasingly shaped by systems designed to make you predictable and controllable? How can you develop authentic preferences when your desires are manufactured by machines? The tragedy is that we mistake this bondage for freedom. We think we're making choices when we're following predetermined paths. We believe we're discovering new ideas when we're being fed variations of things we already know. We feel connected to others when we're actually isolated in personalized bubbles of algorithmic content. 5. The death of creative solitude. Why we need boredom. Nietzsche produced his greatest works during long, solitary walks in the mountains of Switzerland. In the silence and emptiness of those moments, away from the noise of society, his mind was free to make the connections that would revolutionize philosophy. Today, such moments of creative solitude have become almost extinct. We've filled every gap in our consciousness with digital stimulation, and in doing so, we've eliminated the very conditions that make original thought possible. Boredom has become our greatest fear. The moment we feel the slightest absence of stimulation, we reach for our phones. Waiting in line, riding the elevator, walking down the street, every potentially empty moment gets filled with scrolling, endless scrolling. We've developed such an intolerance for mental silence that many people report feeling anxious when their phone battery dies or when they're in areas without internet connection. But boredom is not the enemy of creativity. It's creativity's oldest friend. Neuroscience research has shown that our most creative insights occur during what scientists call the default mode network, the brain state we enter when we're not actively focused on the outside world. This is the mental space where ideas incubate, where seemingly unrelated concepts combine in novel ways, where genuine innovation emerges. When we eliminate boredom, we eliminate the conditions necessary for breakthrough thinking. Nietzsche understood this intuitively. His concept of eternal recurrence came to him during a moment of profound solitude by a lake in Switzerland. His insights about the Übermensch emerged during lonely walks where his mind was free to wander. These weren't idle thoughts that could have occurred while multitasking or consuming digital content. They required the specific conditions of creative solitude, silence, emptiness, and the courage to sit with uncertainty. Modern life has not just eliminated these conditions, it has made them seem unproductive, even pathological. We're taught that every moment should be optimized, every minute maximized for efficiency or entertainment. The idea of simply sitting with our thoughts, of allowing our minds to wander without purpose or direction, strikes many people as wasteful or even dangerous. We've been conditioned to fear the very mental states that produce our greatest insights. The death of creative solitude affects not just professional artists and thinkers, but everyone. The ability to process our experiences, to integrate what we've learned, to develop genuine self-knowledge, all of this requires periods of mental quiet that we no longer allow ourselves. Instead, we live in a state of constant input, constantly reacting to external stimuli rather than generating our own insights. Social media has made this worse by making solitude feel like loneliness and loneliness feel like failure. When we see everyone else appearing busy, connected, and constantly engaged, choosing solitude feels antisocial. We've forgotten that some of the most profound human experiences, spiritual insight, artistic creation, deep self-reflection, require being alone with our thoughts. We've mistaken isolation for depression and reflection for inactivity. The consequences extend beyond individual creativity into the realm of problem-solving and decision-making. Complex life decisions require what we might call mental processing time, periods where we can sort through our experiences, clarify our values, and understand what we really want. When every moment is filled with external input, we lose the ability to process our own lives. We make decisions based on immediate reactions rather than deep consideration. Consider how different life was for previous generations. People regularly experienced long stretches of quiet during commutes, while doing household chores, during evening hours before electronic entertainment. These weren't empty times, but fertile periods when the mind could organize itself, process experiences, and generate new ideas. The elimination of these natural rhythms of mental rest and stimulation has fundamentally altered human consciousness. The fear of boredom also reflects a deeper fear of ourselves. When we're constantly distracted, we don't have to confront difficult questions about our lives, our choices, our authentic desires. Digital stimulation becomes a form of self-medication, protecting us from the sometimes uncomfortable process of genuine self-examination. But as Nietzsche knew, this discomfort is not something to be avoided. It's the beginning of wisdom. 6. The end of personal values. Living other people's lives. Nietzsche's most radical insight was that each individual must create their own values, rather than inherit them from society, religion, or tradition. "What does not kill me makes me stronger," he wrote, but he could have added, "What does not challenge my values keeps me weak." Today, we live in an era where personal values have become increasingly rare. Instead of developing our own moral compass, we adopt the values of influencers, celebrities, political tribes, and social media communities. We're living other people's lives and calling it authenticity. The process begins subtly. Social media platforms show us curated versions of other people's lives, their vacations, achievements, relationships, purchases, and opinions. Over time, we begin to use these external standards as measures for our own worth. We start to want what others have, think what others think, and value what others value. Our sense of success becomes defined not by our own standards, but by social metrics, likes, followers, shares, comments. This represents a fundamental reversal of what Nietzsche considered the highest human achievement, the development of individual values through personal struggle and reflection. Instead of asking, "What do I truly believe?" we ask, "What should I believe to fit in?" Instead of, "What do I genuinely want?" we ask, "What do successful people want?" We've outsourced our value system to algorithms and influencers who profit from our attention and compliance. The phenomenon manifests in countless ways. Young people choose college majors based on what looks impressive on social media rather than what genuinely interests them. Adults select careers that provide Instagram-worthy lifestyles rather than meaningful work. People enter relationships that look good in photos rather than ones that provide genuine connection. We've become actors in our own lives, performing roles written by others rather than creating our own stories. Consumer culture accelerates this process by making values purchasable. Want to be environmentally conscious? Buy organic products. Want to be successful? Get luxury brands. Want to be spiritual? Purchase wellness retreats. Complex inner development gets reduced to external consumption. We mistake buying the symbols of values for actually developing those values through lived experience and reflection. The digital age has made this worse by creating what we might call value volatility, rapid changes in what's considered important, moral, or desirable. Social media trends come and go so quickly that people constantly update their expressed values to match current online fashions. This prevents the slow, deep development of genuine personal principles that can only emerge through sustained reflection and testing against real-world experience. Nietzsche warned about herd morality, the tendency to adopt the values of the group without question. But today's situation is even more complex because we're not just following one herd, but multiple, often contradictory herds simultaneously. We absorb values from our professional networks, social media feeds, entertainment choices, and political affiliations, often without recognizing the conflicts between them or taking responsibility for choosing among them. The result is what we might call value confusion, a state where people hold multiple contradictory beliefs simultaneously without recognizing the contradictions. They want to be both materially successful and spiritually fulfilled, both independent and universally liked, both authentic and socially acceptable. Without a coherent value system developed through personal experience, they try to satisfy every external demand, leading to exhaustion and inner emptiness. This confusion makes people vulnerable to manipulation by anyone who offers simple, pre-packaged value systems. Political movements, religious organizations, consumer brands, and social media influencers all profit from people's inability to develop their own moral compass. They provide ready-made identities complete with associated beliefs, behaviors, and purchasing decisions. The tragedy is that living by other people's values inevitably leads to what Nietzsche called ressentiment, a deep resentment that comes from betraying one's authentic self. When we pursue goals that aren't genuinely ours, when we adopt beliefs that don't reflect our actual experience, when we try to become someone we're not, we develop a subtle but persistent anger toward the world and ourselves. Recovery requires what Nietzsche called becoming who you are, the difficult process of sorting through external influences to discover what you actually believe, want, and value. This can't be done while constantly consuming other people's opinions and lifestyles. It requires the kind of honest self-examination that only emerges in solitude, reflection, and genuine life experience. 7. Mediocrity as a goal, the culture of at least. Nietzsche spoke contemptuously of what he called the last man, a hypothetical future human who seeks only comfort, avoids all difficulty, and is satisfied with mediocrity. We have invented happiness, say these last men, blinking. They think small thoughts, feel small emotions, and aspire to small achievements. Nietzsche wrote this as a warning about humanity's potential future. He didn't realize he was describing our present. Today we live in what we might call the culture of at least, a society where mediocrity has become not just acceptable, but desirable. At least I have a job. At least I'm not alone. At least I'm not as bad as that person. We've lowered our standards so dramatically that simple survival feels like success. We celebrate not failing rather than actually achieving something significant. This mindset pervades every aspect of modern life. In education, we've moved from celebrating excellence to ensuring that everyone feels good about their performance regardless of actual achievement. Students receive participation trophies. Grade inflation makes everyone feel successful, and challenging curriculum gets watered down to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. We've confused self-esteem with self-respect, forgetting that real confidence comes from overcoming genuine challenges. The workplace reflects the same pattern. Many people settle for jobs they dislike, relationships that don't fulfill them, and lifestyles that bore them, as long as these provide basic security and social acceptance. The idea of pursuing something great, a calling that demands sacrifice, risk, and sustained effort, seems unrealistic or even selfish. We've been taught that wanting more than mediocrity is greedy, that ambition is dangerous, that it's better to be safely average than to risk failure in pursuit of excellence. Social media reinforces this by making mediocrity look appealing. The constant stream of ordinary people doing ordinary things makes extraordinary achievement seem abnormal or unattainable. When everyone shares their mundane daily activities, the mundane begins to feel like the goal. We start to believe that a life worth living looks like other people's Instagram stories, comfortable, predictable, and thoroughly average. The culture of at least also manifests in our relationship with difficulty. Previous generations understood that worthwhile achievements require sustained effort, temporary discomfort, and the willingness to delay gratification. Today, we've been conditioned to avoid difficulty at all costs. We want results without effort, success without struggle, growth without discomfort. When something becomes challenging, we don't see it as an opportunity to develop strength. We see it as a sign that we should quit and find something easier. This has created what psychologists call learned helplessness on a massive scale. When people haven't experienced the satisfaction of overcoming genuine challenges, they don't believe they're capable of doing so. They settle for less not because they can't achieve more, but because they've never learned that they can. The culture tells them that wanting more is unrealistic, that their current limitations are permanent, that it's better to accept mediocrity than to risk the discomfort of growth. Nietzsche understood that human beings require obstacles to develop their potential. What does not kill me makes me stronger isn't just about surviving trauma. It's about actively seeking challenges that force us to grow beyond our current limitations. When we eliminate all difficulty from life, we eliminate the very conditions that make us human. We become what he feared, comfortable, weak, and satisfied with our own insignificance. The economic system contributes to this by rewarding compliance over creativity, consistency over innovation. Most jobs require people to follow instructions rather than think independently, to maintain the status quo rather than improve it. Over time, this conditions people to see themselves as cogs in a machine rather than as individuals capable of creating something meaningful. They learn to aspire to job security rather than meaningful work, to steady paychecks rather than genuine contribution. The healthcare and self-help industries have medicalized normal human struggles, turning temporary difficulties into permanent conditions requiring professional intervention. Feeling sad becomes depression. Being shy becomes social anxiety disorder. Having high standards becomes perfectionism. We're taught to see our struggles as symptoms to be treated rather than challenges to be overcome through personal development. 8. The awakening of the free spirit. How to escape mental extinction. After diagnosing the problem, Nietzsche always pointed toward a solution. He called it becoming a free spirit, an individual who has broken free from the mental chains of society, algorithms, and inherited beliefs to create their own values and live according to their own understanding. This isn't about rebellion for its own sake, but about the much harder work of genuine self-creation. In our age of digital dependence and intellectual conformity, becoming a free spirit requires specific, practical steps. The first step is what Nietzsche called intellectual probity, the commitment to honest thinking regardless of where it leads. This means developing the courage to question your own beliefs, especially the ones you hold most strongly. Start with small things. Why do you prefer certain types of music, food, or entertainment? Where did these preferences come from? Are they really yours, or did you absorb them from your environment? Gradually work up to bigger questions about career, relationships, life goals, and moral beliefs. Digital detox isn't just helpful, it's essential. You cannot develop independent thought while constantly consuming other people's ideas. Create daily periods of complete disconnection from all digital devices. Start with 30 minutes and gradually increase to several hours. Use this time not for entertainment or productivity, but for genuine reflection. Sit with your thoughts. Let your mind wander. Experience boredom without immediately trying to escape it. This is where original ideas are born. Physical challenges play a crucial role in mental liberation. Nietzsche did his best thinking during long, difficult walks in the mountains. Physical discomfort breaks you out of comfortable mental patterns and forces you to discover inner resources you didn't know you had. Choose activities that are genuinely difficult. Long-distance running, cold water swimming, martial arts, or wilderness camping. The goal isn't fitness, but the psychological strength that comes from overcoming genuine obstacles. Read primary sources, not summaries or interpretations. If you're interested in philosophy, read the philosophers themselves, not books about them. If you want to understand history, read historical documents, not textbooks. If you're curious about science, read original research papers, not popular science articles. This develops your ability to think through complex ideas independently rather than accepting other people's simplified versions. Develop what we might call productive ignorance. The willingness to say, "I don't know," and sit with uncertainty rather than immediately seeking answers online. When questions arise, resist the urge to Google immediately. Live with the question for days or weeks. Let it percolate in your mind. Try to work out possible answers through your own reasoning before seeking external sources. This rebuilds the mental muscles that digital dependency has weakened. Create rather than consume. Whether it's writing, painting, music, building something with your hands, or solving problems in your work, engage in activities that require you to generate something new rather than simply absorbing existing content. Creation forces you to think originally because you can't copy what doesn't exist yet. Even if your creations aren't great, the process develops the cognitive abilities that consumption destroys. Seek out genuine dialogue with people who disagree with you, but make sure it's real conversation, not debate or argument. Find people who hold different views and genuinely try to understand their perspective, not to convert them or prove them wrong, but to test and refine your own thinking. This develops intellectual flexibility and protects you from the echo chambers that algorithms create. Practice what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate. This means accepting and even embracing the difficulties in your life rather than constantly trying to escape or eliminate them. Your problems, limitations, and challenges are not obstacles to overcome, but raw material for self-creation. Every difficulty is an opportunity to develop strength, wisdom, or resilience that you wouldn't gain any other way. Most importantly, take responsibility for creating your own values rather than inheriting them from others. This doesn't mean rejecting all social norms or traditional wisdom, but it does mean consciously choosing what to accept based on your own experience and reflection. Ask yourself, what do I actually believe? Not what should I believe? What do I genuinely want? Not what do successful people want? What kind of person do I want to become? Not what kind of person does society expect me to be? The path of the free spirit is not easy, and it's not for everyone. It requires sustained effort, intellectual courage, and the willingness to be misunderstood by people who prefer comfortable conformity. But for those who choose this path, it offers the only real escape from the mental extinction that threatens our age. In a world of digital sheep following algorithmic shepherds, the free spirit remains genuinely human, thinking their own thoughts, creating their own values, and living their own life.